Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Sunshine Cathedral Christians and Cocktails here for this Monday evening here in November. It's a nice, wonderful fall Monday evening too. I'm loving the weather here in Fort Lauderdale for a change. The heat's broken. Watch the Weather Channel for all the information. But our PSAs here at Sunshine Cathedral is Monday through Saturday is midday prayer at noon. We invite you to join us for that. Of course, on Wednesday is Share in the Chair. And I want to give you a special invitation to a couple of events that are coming up. And that is one that's this coming Wednesday at 7 p.m. is our Thanksgiving Eve worship service. And we invite you to join us in the room for worship or on Facebook or YouTube for our live broadcast. And then on December the 5th is our holiday concert that we're having at Sunshine Cathedral. You can join us in the room for that as well, or also on the Facebook or YouTube for the live broadcast for that as well. Then, of course, every Sunday at 9 and 10:30 a.m., we have worship in the room on Sunday mornings at the Sunshine Cathedral. And 10:30 service is always broadcast live. We invite you to join us. And for any of our programming, if you enjoy what we're doing, are excited by it, or just want to make sure it continues to happen, we invite you to give us a donation through the Sunshine Cathedral website. And that's you can do text to give, Venmo, or Cash App. And it's all listed right there. But for tonight, you have joined us for Sunshine Cathedral Christians and Cocktails. I don't think we established a drinking word before we began. So I'm just going to make a command decision and say the drinking word for tonight is thankful, since we're in the week of Thanksgiving.
Read my mind.
And we will use the word thankful. So whenever you hear the word thankful tonight, we invite you to take a sip of whatever it is that your libation may have at your fingertips. So here we are, and we're ready to get started. And Darrell, take it away. Thanks to our panel for being here tonight as well. Thank you guys all for being here, and then some. So Darrell, take it away.
All right, we've got some new people that have found us lately online, or even maybe being someone's guest at church or whatever. And so I just want to make sure everyone knows what we're about here. So Christians and Cocktails have been going on for a couple of years now. It started out as Theology on Tap. We met once a month in a bar, and that was a lot of fun. And then when the pandemic hit and we all had to hunker down a little bit, we started offering it weekly and called it Christians and Cocktails because we weren't in a bar to have a tap. So we just changed the name and kept it going, made it be weekly. And originally it was people would ask questions, write them down, put them in a jar, I'd draw them out, and try to answer them. So it was sort of a stump the pastor kind of thing, but also really just, discussion and learning, and no question was off limits. And some answers were not necessarily traditional or super reverent, but that was part of the fun. And so it continues. But of course, the panel now not only presents the questions, and some people, the questions come from online viewers. You may ask a question tonight in the thread, and we'll put it in the queue. Some questions come from the panel themselves. It could be that Margarita comes up with a question and we have Robert ask it. So the person asking the question may not be their question, they're just presenting it. And then other people, once I've taken a stab at it, they add their 2 cents, and on it goes. So that's the setup, that's the game, that's how we play. And of course, there's a lot on the live thread. You can discuss, you can make comments, you can ask questions, you can have some back and forth with each other. This is an interactive and as fun as you want it to be. So that's the game. We've got some big questions. We of course won't get to them all, but big as in kind of deep, kind of, not just 4 or 5 words to even ask them. And so let's just dive in, because I want to get to as many as possible. We usually get 3 or 4, sometimes only 1. But
it depends on who asked the question, apparently.
So, but if we can, but if I can be brief, then and see, that's what you don't know. But if I can be brief, then we can get more questions in. But better to really dive deep on 1 or 2 than to skip over. So we'll see how it goes. Let's start with Dennis. What is your question? Or what is the question you have for us? Not necessarily your question, but what is the question you have for us?
Okay. The question is, I grew up believing that full immersion water baptism in response to a conversion experience was necessary for salvation. Now, I'm sure you don't believe that, but can you explain why believers' baptism isn't necessary. What did I miss? All I see is this. I look up for my reading in that.
It was, I know the words, but it was all about the oral interpretation. Sure, you don't believe it.
I'm sure you don't believe it.
Turns out I don't. But and looking at this this panel of former Catholics, I'm not the only one. Also though, a couple of Baptists and a Mormon. I know Mormons do immersion baptism, but I also think it's at a certain time when they're teenagers. I think it's sort of like a calendar thing. Oh, 8? 8, you're saying, okay.
That's when you're old enough to decide whether or not you want to join a church for the rest of your life.
Yes. So it really is sort of a believer's baptism. So it's more like the baptism. I know that my friends who were in the Church of Christ, not the United Church of Christ, but they were the Christian churches of Christ, independent, fundamentalists. They're big in the South. They were big on that you had to be old enough to believe a thing. You had to say you believed a thing. then you had to demonstrate it with the water baptism. So it was sort of like what sealed the deal. It was, it was the kiss that sealed the deal. And you could screw up, lose the whole thing, and have to do it all over again. So that was them. And that never appealed to me. But so that's the thing, is that it was just exactly like I say in the question. The theology is that it's a believer's baptism. So first of all, you have to be old enough to believe. And that can be 8, 10, 12, 14, whatever. The Baptists called it age of accountability. Kind of sounds a little scary. But so basically meaning that you were responsible, like you could own your sins. Like if you had messed up, you knew what you were doing. And so at 8 or 10, you then deserved, whatever retribution, punishment. Because, yeah, people have a lot more faith in, the 9, 10, 11-year-old than I think is warranted. But whereas if you were Methodist or Lutheran or Episcopal or Roman Catholic, the baptism is a sign of God's grace. It's not a sign of, it has very little to do with the person getting it. It's about God's covenant with us, not any promise we make to God, but God's promise to us. It's still a little problematic. I mean, we can still deconstruct that, but it's just a different mindset. So for the believer's baptism set of people, it is like an affirmation of faith, an embodied, you don't have to really say much, but an embodied affirmation of faith that you do after you have made a profession of faith, which you make after you have had some sort of internal experience where you put Jesus in charge of your life. And then whether or not it seems as if Jesus is really in charge of your life, that's a whole nother discussion. Because if kindness and generosity and those kinds of things are measurements of that. So anyway, so that's believer's baptism. Infant baptism is sort of the congregation making an affirmation that we're going to help raise this child in the faith, that we're going to love this child and support this family, so this child grows up with a relationship with God and with the people of God. And so it's a whole different mindset. And then when that person turns about 12 or 14, in those traditions, they get confirmed. They confirm their faith. It's kind of the same thing then. I am at a certain age where I've decided, still even at 14, mostly I'm doing what mom wants, but where I've decided that I am a person of faith, this is my chosen faith, and I'm going to live faithfully here on out. So one group of Christians, it's infant baptism, followed a decade later by confirmation. These others, at about confirmation age or any time thereafter, is you get baptized. So those are the differences. And I was more in one camp than the other for a lot of my adult life. I'm now in neither camp. I love ritual, and any ritual that is life-giving and that gives you hope or joy or that makes you feel connected to what is good, I'm for it. If I'm capable, I'll try to offer it. But I don't think any ritual is required for us to be in a relationship with God, for us to be good people, for us to love God, for us to be sincere in our pursuit of matters of faith. And so at Sunshine Cathedral, we say, if you want to be part of Sunshine Cathedral, if you show up, if you're praying, if you're supporting with time, talent, and treasure, if you're learning, you're growing, you're questioning, if you are part of the life, then you are immersed in the life of our church. And that's your baptism. If you want to celebrate that with a ritual, we pay the water bill. We're ready for you. We'll do what you want. We'll splash some on you. But the baptism is your life. You are immersed in our community. And then if you want to celebrate that with a ritual, we're so happy to accommodate. We especially love doing that with babies. Now, sometimes people aren't really members of our congregation, but they have babies. And so their motivation is, I just want to celebrate this event. And I want at least one moment in my child's life where a lot of people applauded and celebrated that they existed. I'm here for that too. And so we said, well, come to church. We do it on Sunday mornings. We usually don't do private baptisms too much. So we'll say, come to church once, be part of our community that day anyway. And then in the worship service, we'll baptize your baby and we will applaud and we'll get very excited and we will celebrate that this person exists. Now in that instance, you aren't necessarily immersed in the life of our church. We're just simply recognize that you are immersed in the life of God because God is omnipresent. We're all immersed in the life of God. And so for infants, yeah, we want you to be part of our church. We want you to stick around. We're here for you. But mainly we know that this is a rite of passage celebrating a life. And so we'll do that for the baby. And we love that. And Robert will snatch the baby up and parade it all around the church and, love on it and it'll be great. So for me, baptism is one of many possible rituals. It's completely optional. We love it. If it's important to you, it's important to me. But it's not so important to me that I'm going to say you have to have it to be a relationship with God, because that's silly. I don't believe that. So I hope that answers that question. What do you some of you ex-dunkers and some of you ex-sprinklers and pourers, what do you think about all that?
I had no choice when I was a kid. I turned one and they just put the water on me. And I guess I've been told that also they do it so that if God forbid something happens to you, if you haven't been baptized, supposedly you don't get into heaven. And I'm thinking, what kind of bull is that? But anyway, I am thankful.
Hey.
Drink.
Live break.
That I later had the choice to get baptized by Darrell Watkins in the Jordan River.
Mm-hmm.
But that time was by choice.
Yeah. There was an old, again, it was in response to a real need. When women died in childbirth a lot, which is, people ask a lot of times, why don't people want to be nuns anymore? My question is, why did they want to be nuns ever? And one of the things is that nuns take a vow of chastity. A vow of chastity means you're not going to get knocked up, and not ever getting pregnant means you won't ever die in childbirth. Now, we have hospitals, we have specialists, we have equipment, we have, now you think of childbirth being safe and, people have lots of kids and, but there was a time that if you had more than 2 or 3 children and lived to 40, you were a survivor really. And so people became nuns because one, it was a good shot of living to old age. And 2, it was the one situation where at least one woman was going to rise to a position of authority, the abbess of the order or whatever. So at least one woman was going to get a little authority, a little power, and no one was going to die in childbirth. Because we have good medicine now, that's not such a big draw. And women have other opportunities for career options or whatever. So that was one thing. So the women who were sometimes they would lose, children would be stillborn, or the mother would die in childbirth, or maybe the child would die also then after that. Baptizing children was a comfort. It was to say, well, we've got this thing we can do, and it's going to, make. So I'm sorry about all of this, but the child will be in heaven with God. The angels are going to take care of your precious baby from now on. And so it was very comforting. Now, of course, what is meant to be comforting at this time can become a dogma and abusive later. But it was meant to be a comfort. In fact, it was so important. Priests didn't even have to do it. You didn't have to be a priest or a deacon to baptize babies. Your Muslim midwife could baptize your baby as long as she used the right words. And there was a strict formula, you had to use the right words. But so it was comforting in a time when medicine was not very good and where life was very hard and where only the super rich ever made it past 70. So to have these rituals that assured you, yeah, I'm a peasant or a serf. My life is hard. My wife has had 9 births, but we only have 4 kids. And then she dies at 40, and I'm only going to make it to 50. In that world, all these assurances of a better world make sense. It's comforting. It's the candy, offered. It's the consolation prize. When those things become entrenched, though, as absolute dogma, and so now you have to, instead of this thing being a thing that we offer to comfort you in your time of sadness, it's now a threat. Do it or you won't get all these good things.
Right.
That's where things have gone, I think, awry. But yeah, but I think originally this idea that, we've got to baptize your children, that was actually, I think, very comforting for a lot of people, where just life was hard for everyone. And it was one way to offer comfort.
So let me offer this Baptist interpretation.
Oh, wait. Oh, hold on. Linda had an example of what I was saying.
Yes, actually, I was baptized as a newborn because there was some type of virus on the formula milk that I was given at the hospital when I was born. And there was this big threat that I was gonna die. So my parents immediately called a priest to have me baptized. So I am thankful.
As are we.
Because it was the belief of my parents that probably saved me, right? That intervention, divine intervention, quick divine intervention. I was baptized again, thankful for that. At around a toddler age, I don't know. I have some great godparents from that second baptism, but yeah.
Excellent. And Robert, you had some perspective from your evangelical background.
Certainly. So in my little group that we grew up in, we couldn't be baptized before the age of 12 because guess who was baptized around the age of 12 or 13? Jesus. So that was kind of the mark about when you could be baptized. You could not be baptized before that because you were kind of covered until the age of 12. Anything that may have happened to you from birth to 12, you were covered.
It's good enough for Jesus. It's good enough for me.
There you go. That's kind of what it was.
There are different traditions, but the Synoptic Gospels have Jesus being baptized right before he begins his ministry, which would make him about 29 or 30.
Well, that would have been yes.
And he was circumcised on the 8th day, and then there was a trip to the temple when he was 12, and there were all kinds of there's different traditions. I'm saying, but
yeah. And so what also helped us find Jesus really early in baptism was that where I grew up in my little town, we got baptized in the creek. There was no baptism pool. There was no baptismal font. It was the creek. And guess what was in the creek? Snakes. So you went for baptism for one thing, but you found Jesus because you was hoping there was no snakes in the water. So baptism took on a whole new meaning about being baptized and everything. But also very seriously, it was very important because it was part of our growing into the church as well. It was part of our accepting the church covenant and believing in things like that. But the experience to get to there was kind of like almost kind of somewhat traumatic to like, wow, these things happened to my older siblings that they was baptized in a creek with snakes. I don't think I could do that today. Just saying. So also, the Jordan River came close.
If you were Methodist or Presbyterian, you were probably sprinkled. If you were Catholic or Episcopal, you probably poured. And then if you were Baptist or Assembly of God, you're probably immersed. And they each have different. The sprinkling represents the washing away of sin. Not a big fan of that. The pouring represents the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, and the immersion again is washing. But it also is that you are with Jesus in the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. So there is a
reborn. Some
yeah.
or reborn.
There was a huge debate in my family because my mom is Lutheran, and so I was baptized Lutheran when I was a baby, and then I've seen a video of it. I think they poured it out of like a little shell or something. And then but when I was around 10 or 12, my dad's family in Alabama that were all Baptists, they wanted me to get baptized again. Well, I had gone to like Bible camp or whatever that summer, and I was like about to do it because I was just there with all my cousins and stuff. And my mom found out and was like, she already did that. She don't need it again. And it was a source of conflict.
Well, in the ancient creeds, there is a line: we believe in one baptism for the remission of sins. One baptism. And so, so Church of Christ, you can get baptized every week, but in the in the more formal sort of liturgical churches, we believe in one baptism. Sunshine Cathedral, we think your one baptism is life. You are immersed in the life of God. However many times you want to, sort of make a party of that, have a little symbol of that, that's your business. But, and sometimes people will say, because they're from that tradition, they want to do it for whatever reason they want to do it, but they also have this little thing ringing in the back of their head, we believe in one baptism. And we even work that out. We're like, okay, well then we can reaffirm your baptism. We can do this and we're reaffirming your baptism. Still go through the ritual, but just say it a little differently. And so, we'll just work it out. we will just work it out. Here's the thing. I just don't believe that God is limited by our traditions or our understandings or, unless when they, of course, you never know how accurate, how factual stories are, but let's just take it at its value for 2 seconds. Jesus is being executed. There is a rebel next to him being executed. The rebel says to him, "Remember me." Jesus says, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." They are both strung up on pieces of wood. Jesus can't get to him to perform a ritual unless he's like, like spit on him. Like there was no way that, you know what I mean? And so that scene alone shows that it's not essential. You know what I mean? That person was immersed in faith in that moment. That person was immersed in love in that moment. That person was immersed in kindness in that moment. And so the inability to get to a font or whatever was not, wasn't a deal breaker. And in fact, even in Catholic theology, there's something called the baptism of desire. If you wanted to be baptized and couldn't work it out, couldn't make it happen, that you were still baptized by desire.
And if you don't get baptized, one of Tara's relatives could always just baptize you after you're dead.
The Mormons have posthumous baptisms, so there's so many traditions. There's so many traditions, and I don't need to knock any of them really, except to say I don't believe that any of them are essential. They're good. If they make you feel good, they make you a better person. They give you hope. They give you joy. I'd be the last person to try to deny you that. But I'm also the last person to say that any of that is what it takes to be in communion with the divine. I think God would be terribly petty to say, "Oh, wow, you were an amazing human, but sorry about you. You didn't get those 6 extra drops of water when you were, a baby. So, wish it was otherwise." That's just not the God of my understanding. It's just not.
I'm just thankful that you didn't spit on me when you dunked me in the river.
Oh, please. That would be cleaner than the Jordan River.
Probably. So I've been baptized probably hundreds of times because I had to get baptized twice when I was 8, because the first time my foot or something popped up, it's immersion, and my foot popped up, and so we had to do it again, and it was so embarrassing. I was mortified that I had to get dunked twice.
There's a dry toe. It didn't work. I see a dry toe. It did not work.
That was her gay foot.
It's like, don't do it. But then once you get to be 12, you can get your limited temple recommend, where you can go as a youth and you can be baptized for the dead. And so I would go, honestly, I would try to go once a week. Before school, I would, they made it like a social event. You would go with your friends and you would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and you'd go to the temple and you'd do baptisms for the dead before school. And it was like a social event. And I did that for like the majority of my youth from 12 to 18. And so I've been baptized a lot.
And in Roman Catholicism, people pray the rosary for the departed. It's not that uncommon to have rituals that show in Judaism, you light a candle on the anniversary of a departed loved one's death. These rituals that connect us, because people are silly with them, we make fun of them sometimes, but really, these are actually beautiful sentiments. I just got a kind of a warm feeling, like, really, there were like teenagers that get up early before school to do this thing for the departed. It's kind of lovely. It's kind of lovely, really. So
it was
all
funny.
right.
I was just gonna say, it was funny to see Sam's face while you were saying all that.
Sure.
She's like,
I knew that she did it. I didn't know you did it that much.
Oh yeah. One time I got in a car accident on the way to the temple. That didn't stop me. I still went to the temple.
Wow. Wow.
I just want to know if I can get on the do not save list. That's like
Do not call.
do not,
Oh, trust.
There's a registry, I'm
do
sure.
not immerse. Do not.
one of our
All
viewers,
right.
Pasco, do not collect $200.
All right.
one of our viewers says that they're thankful to hear our experiences.
Oh,
We're thankful for that comment.
right.
Mm.
All right. Dennis gave us that first question, but you'd think it was Tito because it ate up half an hour. So but that's good. We got it. Why not? We will take the time with it. Linda, do you have a question for us?
Yes, it's about Mother Teresa. It says her diary revealed that she actually had doubts about God. So do you ever doubt that God exists?
Oh, well, the short answer is yes, but yeah, but not. Belief for me and thinking theologically is so ingrained. It's so habitual for me that I kind of, my knee-jerk reaction is to want to say no. But the truth is that a spiritual journey is a journey of questions. And so, of course, in my life, I have questioned, what if I'm just deluding myself? What if at the end I've spent my life believing in the tooth fairy or in Santa Claus? What if it's just all, now my conclusion is usually, what did it hurt? I'm an imaginative person. I've spent a lot of time in my head. In my childhood, my mother would have to make me go outside to play because that might interrupt whatever I already had going on. You know what I mean? So if God is my imaginary friend, who cares? You know what I mean? So, but of course I've asked the question. I don't think you can ask any question about God that doesn't eventually lead to, is it even a thing? Now the answer I keep coming back to is, of course, yeah. There is something. There is some source to all that is. There is some substance to all there is. There is some connection between all that is, and I call that God. If I were an artist, I might call it something else. If I were a scientist, I might call it something else. Depending on my life experiences, I might approach it in different ways. But there is something that's really real. There is an ultimate reality, to sort of borrow from non-dualistic Hinduism. And so, yeah, I've asked that question a lot of times, but I keep coming back to the answer that of course there is. Of course there's something. I may have what it is all wrong. I may be grossly inadequate in the ways that I can describe it or talk about it. In fact, everyone is. If you can nail it with your description, it's not God enough. But so of course, as I've had those doubts, and you may again, but even as many times as I may have asked, is there anything to this? I, at least so far, always come back to yes. What about you guys? A panel full of people of faith. Have you ever wondered, really? Is it for real?
I sometimes really hope that people will doubt God in an effort to make it bigger. Like when I hear people talk about what I call like little God, you know, the one that's not enough, the one that's like mean or exclusionary or whatever. Like, I hope that like doubt in those people might bring about a bigger God for them. That's like a real hope of mine.
Yeah, so that worked for me, I think. I think any profound and true faith has to involve honest doubt.
I think
Otherwise, you've just, you know, you're just carrying around whatever you inherited, and you know, and so what people told you, you know, could have been anything. So I don't think you get brownie points because you just accepted whatever was handed to you. So yeah, I think any profound and true faith involves honest doubt.
I was gonna say, I think the times when I've gone through something really difficult has been usually that point where I'm like, is there really a God? You know, those I think have really been like the main times where I've actually doubted, not like majorly, but had a little doubt, you know. Yeah. But then I just like reinvigorate God again, and God's good and wonderful, and everything's fine.
Yeah. The God of my understanding is still a work in process. That God evolves as I evolve. But that there's something, and I'm still maybe working on what to call it and how to talk about it, but that there is something behind all of that. I keep coming back to yes for that answer. And I don't think that there's any penalty or whatever for someone who comes to a different conclusion. You know, we're all asking the deep questions, and we're all on the journey. I actually had a friend who was a theologian, and she used to say that God is the search for God. Like, once you think you found God, that God is an idol and not nearly God enough. So the God is actually the search for God. And as long as you're searching, you're on the path. You're finding what you need for the moment. But once you think you have found the big answer, you haven't asked a big enough question.
Well, it's like it's the journey, not the destination kind of thing.
Yeah. All right, let's get another question. Robert, ask me something. Ask us something.
Did I unmute myself? I think I did.
No, yeah, you're talking.
Okay. So you have said that our clergy offer pastoral care, but you also said that clergy don't provide clinical services such as counseling. What's the difference? When I was younger, I knew pastors who offered biblical counseling. How is that different from therapy? And why shouldn't I go to my pastor for counseling?
You should ask a question.
Right.
Well, it's all tied up in there.
And full disclosure, that question was much more confrontive than the way it was just asked. But
well, girl, how do you feel about that?
But that's okay. It's a great question. The reason, oh my God, spiritual advice, spiritual guidance is very important. And if people are using sacred scriptures to help with that, that's a great resource. But it isn't clinical. A licensed therapist with a master's in social work or a master's degree in psychology, someone who has had a supervised internship, someone who's had to take a state exam, you know, that these people are prepared. These are clinicians. They are prepared to deal with you, work with you on mental health. I took depth psychology in seminary. I took pastoral care in seminary. I had a field education internship in seminary. I mean, okay, good. I know some things. That is not the same as someone who spent 2 years dedicated just to mental health in graduate school and a supervised internship and a state exam. It's just malpractice to assume that I know what a therapist knows, or that I can do what a therapist can do with you and for you. So pastoral care is, I visit you in the hospital. Pastoral care is, I pray with you that your medical treatment is successful, or that your fear is relieved, or that the medicines, that the experimental treatment will provide some sort of benefit, or if the whole thing turns out to be disappointing, that you will be comforted. I'm there with you. I'm praying with you. That is not replacing the medical treatment. Now, there are theologies that say prayer alone should be able to heal things. That's your theology. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying If that's your theology and that's what you want, I'm probably not the person to call, because my philosophy is say a prayer and take a pill. If one doesn't work, the other will. I think because God is omnipresent, God is in everything, take your medicine, that's God too, right? So, so pastoral care is the ministry of presence. And so in the ministry of presence, if what you need advice from me, the advice may be, you need 12 steps, or you might want to explore 12 steps, or you might want to see a therapist, or you might want to tell your physician this, that, or the other thing, because there are medications that can help. And so, yeah, I can be, any of us on this panel can be a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on, someone to pray with you. And then if you need more than that, the more than may be, I have a list of referrals of people who can help you with your clinical issues, because I'm not a clinician. So we're not trying to get out of helping you. We're just trying to avoid malpractice. We don't want to promise you we can do a thing that we're not as good at doing as someone who is licensed to do that. I once had to deal with, in a secular job, I was a caseworker, and I had to deal with this family that there was all kinds of dysfunction and abuse and blah, blah, blah. And so there was court-ordered counseling. And so they sought their counseling from their pastor. Now, their pastor hadn't been to seminary. I don't think their pastor had been to college. Their pastor certainly had not been licensed as a therapist or a social worker. I think this pastor was barely qualified, maybe not qualified to be a pastor, certainly wasn't qualified as a mental health professional. And so I just can't even describe to you.
That. The court approved that?
Well, that's where I came in. And the short answer is no. Because like, oh, you said I had to get counseling. This is where I'm getting counseling. And so the intervention was, no, you have to get counseling from a counselor, from a licensed professional counselor, a mental health counselor. So no, we got it sorted out. But I'm saying that, yeah, so that's what we don't ever want. We don't want you to, if you have real mental health needs, yes, as a friend, as a leader, as a person of faith, I can be supportive, but when it comes to treatment, you want to go to someone who the state you live in says has met the qualifications to treat you. And I will pray for the success of that treatment. And if I have personal recommendations, like I know good folks or good agencies, I'm going to give you my, the best that I got. But I don't want people who don't spend their life navigating the choppy waters of religion, trying to make edicts about faith. I don't want people who haven't successfully completed dental school to try to perform surgery in my do any kind of dental thing in my mouth. I don't want I don't want anyone writing prescriptions for me that doesn't understand the human body inside and out and the chemical reactions of all the medicines. I don't want the pharmacist filling that prescription who isn't a licensed pharmacist, right? So it's just, we just want everyone to get the best possible care. And your pastor or a chaplain or a spiritual director may be the first step in getting that care, but not the last. I've had relatives say, okay, you've called me your cousin or your, whatever, your whole life. And now in a moment of crisis, you're calling me pastor. No. And I've actually had people be very hurt when they say, well, okay, so counsel me. If I had 2 PhDs in psychology, I couldn't counsel you. We don't have a therapeutic relationship. Like it wouldn't be ethical. I couldn't even do it. And they've really gotten angry. So you're just not gonna do it? You're just gonna say no? That's what I'm saying. That is what I'm telling you. That I will listen to you, I will cry with you, I will pray with you, I will hug you. But if you need counseling, find a counselor, not Cousin Darrell. You know what I mean? So yes, we distinguish pastoral care from therapeutic services, although your pastoral care can lead to therapeutic services. But yeah, my job is about myth and metaphor and prayer and possibilities and getting you to think out of the box and getting you to think about God. And if your neurons aren't firing properly, that's beyond my pay grade. But I know someone. I can get you to the person who can deal with it. And so no, we're not. So when we say we'll provide pastoral care but not therapy, we're not trying to get out of something. We're just trying to not we're trying to do no harm. We're trying to stay in our lane. And if you need something that someone else could do better, we just want you to find that person so you get the best possible care. The Apostle Paul says there are gifts of healing. And so if what you need is for someone to share a gift that I don't have, I want to make sure you get to that gift. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
We have people who've had therapy. Robert did a clinical internship at the Centers for Disease Control. No, the other one, National Institutes of Health. Margarita is a spiritual director. I mean, we've got teachers on the panel. And the same thing. I mean, I've had teachers give me really good advice, and sometimes that advice ended with, "And now you need to go see the counselor," or "Now you need to go see the principal," or whatever. That yes, anyone can talk to you for a minute, but then if you need more, part of the conversation needs to be, and this is where you can go get more.
I have to say I'm thankful for Sunshine Cathedral, because after coming for whatever 6 months straight and crying every day, every time I was in the church, I got up the courage. Growing up, I don't know that we didn't believe in therapy, but it wasn't something that we would seek out growing up. And we would go to our pastor and say, hey, we're going through a thing, and oh well, God says this, and they open up this book and so here it says, so that was my experience growing up. So I sat with Ann and I'm like, oh, I want you to pray with me, and of course I'm bawling and da 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 da. And she prayed with me, and then she grabbed a brochure and she said, now here's SunServe, and you need to go and talk to somebody about whatever it was I was dealing with. I was dealing with depression. So I am thankful that she pointed me in the right direction. So here.
Yeah, so, we have a sibling organization, SunServe, full of social workers, psychologists, and yeah, we just have this wonderful resource. We would be remiss to not point you in that direction. I'm sorry, Tara, you were saying something.
No, that's okay. This is an interesting topic to me because I had a similar situation, kind of like the story you shared, Darrell. When I was in high school, my parents went through kind of a nasty divorce. And so we were all court ordered as kids and my parents to go to get therapy as well. But my church had like a counseling service tied to it. So I wasn't receiving counsel from my pastoral leaders. I was referred to a counseling service that was like within the church. So it's called LDS Family Services. And so my counselor was my same religion. And though they did have a degree, they had like this agenda, so to speak. And, it was all fine at first, but I ended up seeing this counselor for a long time, like that sometimes when you start therapy, you realize the more you need it. And so even like years after the divorce and after we weren't ordered to go anymore, I was still going, and I was still seeing this person as I was like transitioning away from the Mormon church as I was going through college and kind of changing my views on things. And then suddenly I couldn't see this person anymore because they had this agenda, and I had to find a different counselor, Right. So
there is actually you can be licensed as a psychologist, you can be licensed as a mental health counselor, or some states call it a licensed professional counselor. There's also a licensure for pastoral counseling. I think it's the American Association of Pastoral Counselors, and it's the same thing. It's an accredited licensing board. You still have to have the right credentials. You have to do the supervised internship. You have to, pass the exams and whatnot. But their focus is for people of faith. But it still has to be legitimate psychotherapy. It has to be legitimate mental health counseling. Now, because it's pastoral counseling, they can maybe incorporate prayer. They may be more sensitive to particular values. They may share those values. So it can, it's for people of faith who want someone to respect their faith, but it still should be legitimate mental health counseling. And I don't know about LDS service. I imagine if it was something similar, that they were certified, but also committed to certain values and traditions and whatnot. Yeah.
I want to loop back to something that Tara said. I think it's very important for people to hear, is that she had to find another therapist because it wasn't working. And sometimes I think get trapped into saying, well, you're the therapist, I got to stick with you because you know what you're talking about. And I think we also have to own a bit of that for ourselves. Like, if you're not getting what you feel that you need, that it is okay to find another therapist.
Yeah, or doctor, or
doctor, whatever. If you're not getting what you feel that you really, really, truly need, it is okay to find someone else.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important. Yeah.
Excellent. And there's the difference between sort of triage. Like, if you were to go see your school counselor, that might just be a session or two, because this person is the counselor for thousands of kids, right? And that's different than going to see, your therapist every other week for a year. That's private and on your insurance or whatever. So yeah, there are counselors that will see you to put a Band-Aid on a thing. And that's also important. A lot of times when there's some hurricane or a big tragedy, the governor of some state will send in a lot of school counselors or whatever to help just deal with the, on the ground moment. But even that is
with COVID, it's happening. Yeah.
But even that is it's sort of triage. That's still not like a therapeutic relationship. So it's complex. It's complex. And yes, all of your pastors, all of your, we're going to talk to you. We're going to pray with you. And we're going to make it clear what we are and what we aren't. We're pastors, we're not psychologists. Unless someone is both and they've hung out that particular shingle. So I think we've got time for one more. Tito, why don't you ask us a question?
Okay, I'm going to pull this up.
Now, Tito had prepared was assigned a different question, and this came in, and so he's going to messenger. Anyway, he got a direct thing, and he's going to share it with us.
As a Unitarian Universalist, I felt at home at Sunshine Cathedral. How is progressive Christianity different from humanism, universalism, or even atheism? What is the future of progressive Christianity?
Well, I think the future of everything is progressive. The root word is progress. So the future for anything is to continue to progress, right? So I think the future of Christianity is progressive Christianity. I think the future of Judaism is progressive Judaism. I think the future of Hinduism is progressive Hinduism. I think that anything that is living and responsive to reality will be adaptive and evolutionary and will progress forward. So I think the future of Christianity is progressive Christianity. So that's the first thing. How is progressive Christianity now? And we identify in lots of ways. I mean, I identify as a spiritual humanist. I identify as a new thoughter or divine scientist. I identify with perennial wisdom or ancient wisdom. I identify as a progressive Christian. I identify as a universalist. And so just like I have all of these ways of understanding myself, I think all of those understandings and more are present in our church. So progressive Christianity is one of the ways to understand your Sunshine Cathedral experience. How it differs from atheism is that an atheist says there is no God. Sunshine Cathedral says, if you say there is no God, there's a place for you with us. Because even if you don't believe in God, you probably believe in love and beauty and hope and joy and kindness and generosity. We just call that God. And for some reason you don't. And why would we fight about that? Welcome home. The difference between us and spiritual human, our humanism, secular humanism, or spiritual humanism. Secular humanism is just that. It's you believe in human dignity and human strength and human ingenuity, and you're secular. Spiritual humanism is you believe in all those things, but you also ask the big questions in life, and you like ritual and you like spiritual community. And so if you're a spiritual humanist, that's just a humanist that likes spirituality. Maybe you're into 12 steps, or you like coming to church or synagogue or whatever. And so we affirm the sacred value of all people, which is humanistic. Erasmus, which is sort of the name that always comes up when you talk about the history of humanism, was, I believe, was Roman Catholic. So if you are a humanist and like Sunshine Cathedral, well, welcome home. There's a lot of us. What's the other one? Atheism, humanism, universalism. The Unitarian Church was a Protestant church that said there was not strong or clear biblical evidence of a Trinity. They were correct, by the way. The Universalist was another Protestant denomination that said, if grace is true, damnation isn't. That if God is good and God is all powerful and God has eternity to work whatever out, then surely God will figure out a way to save every last person. Some of them believed, had atonement theology, and they said, yes, Jesus died for your sins, but unlike others, we think it really worked. It's not about what you believe, it's about what he did and it worked. Others said, no, he died because he died, because, people are mean, and he died, he was killed. God's not gonna reject you because God is good. Whatever, Universalists just believed in universal salvation. 1959, I believe it was, those two, maybe it was 1960, those two denominations merged to form the Unitarian Universalist Association. And so now, and then UU churches continued to progress and grow, and they started welcoming insights from all kinds of religions, and they have religious atheists and spiritual humanists and Buddhists and Jews and Hindus and Christians and everybody. And but because of that, even though they have UU Christians, they're very careful not to sort of privilege that in any sort of way. So it's sort of an interfaith kind of situation. So we're kind of on board with that, obviously, but because we are progressive Christians or New Thought Christians, Jesus gets a lot of airtime. So that's how we'd be different. We probably don't even have a dramatically different view of Jesus than UU, especially not UU Christians, but we are still so Christian identified that you're going to hear Jesus either in a hymn or in a scripture or in a sermon probably every time you come to Sunshine Cathedral. And so that would be one way that we were different, is that we do privilege him, give him a lot of airtime anyway. The Jesus that I love, that I follow, that I talk about is very human, is more of a guru than a savior, is more of a way shower, it's not part of an atonement plan, is more an example than an exception. I love Jesus. Jesus is a hero for me, and yet he is, the divinity of Jesus for me is mostly a myth that reminds me of the divinity of all of us. And so that's a lower Christology than other Christians. It's probably not that out of line with other progressive Christians. But so those are the similarities and some of the differences. Sunshine Cathedral is just such a big grab bag, though. You're going to find conservatives amongst us, believe it or not, because they're welcome. Because even if you disagree with everything I say, but you still want to hear me say it, welcome home. You know what I mean? And so we do have liberals and conservatives. We have people who are questioning. We have gays and straights. We have men and women. We have wacky crystal gazing, seance having, Ouija board playing, tarot card reading, people, and we have people probably speaking tongues, and everything in between. And so I think we are different. We are a different kind of church. We are different in that, okay, yeah, we're Eucharistic, but our Eucharist is just wide open. Not just anyone can take it. Anyone can decide what it means for them. They can decide to sit it out, even. I mean, whatever. So we are different. And one of our differences is that you can be anywhere on this faith spectrum as long as you're kind. You can't use your difference to be mean to someone else. And that's really the only limitation, that you can be anywhere on this spectrum and journey with us. So I think that's our uniqueness. And in that uniqueness, you're going to find something that's similar from, I don't know if we've got that much going on with the Mormons. I don't know if we've got that much going on with the Church of Christ. I don't know if we've got that much going on with the Pentecostals, other than we get excited sometimes, and we have a lot of passion. People might just break out into dance. It's not, but it's more like a tea dance. But still, they just may break out into a dance. We have liturgy, but the liturgy, like, you can laugh at it if you want to, you can play with it. We have, we love Jesus, but we're not going to ask you to worship Jesus if that's your bag, and we're probably not going to tell you to stop worshiping Jesus if that's your bag. We're just so hard to define, which is why I think we are very godly. We, like God, are so hard to define. And our rule is love. We're trying to learn to love ourselves more. As we learn to love ourselves more, we love others more. And that's our journey. And we don't always get it right, but we always try to get right back on track when we don't get it right. And that's what this group is about. Not just this group, but all of our groups. It's about journeying together. And so when some person is, falling a little bit behind, we surround them and help them catch back up. Nobody needs to be journeying alone. So I hope that answered that question. I know it wasn't personally your question, Tito, but I do hope that how we are different than any tradition you named is that we are inclusive of them, but not limited to how they define themselves. Probably a really good, or two really good people to chime in on that would be, or even three, would be Margarita and Linda. Linda's an interfaith minister. Margarita is a spiritual director, has to deal with people from all kinds of traditions. And then the other one, of course, Dr. Robert Griffin, who was worked in the military chaplain services, where he had to, be with people from every sort of walk of life. And so these people who in other lives had to deal with a lot of differences are maybe some of the best ones to describe how they all can come together and coexist at the Sunshine Cathedral.
You did.
We don't hear you, Margarita.
Margarita, unmute.
I know you're talking. Still can't hear her. Oh no. We super want to hear this too.
So
no.
Margarita and Linda are figuring it out there. Come on, you guys can figure this out.
They're going to work on that. Robert, you talk while they continue to.
And just there it is. You're almost there. One more time. I said, there you are. Are you there? You're unmuted. No, I still can't hear you.
Okay, Robert's going to talk, and you keep working on it. And
He's working on that.
Laugh too.
You can interrupt him. Please interrupt him so that we'll know your thing is working.
Interrupt me when you get in. Just keep talking.
So, Robert, go ahead.
So, in the military, it's a very unique experience because if you kind of fall under the Protestant, Catholic, or even at that time Jewish, and we hadn't gotten to the Muslims or the Buddhists at that point during my time in the military. But what I appreciate about my experience in the military was you get to work with a lot of different faith groups. And working with a lot of different faith groups was very interesting to me because it was an education time. It was an opportunity to learn more about different walks of people's different faith journeys. And, I think one of my favorite ones that I came across was when I was working at a boot camp facility in Camp Pendleton, California, was this little guy who was a Native American. And he comes to me one day and he approached me and says, I need some tobacco. I was like, well, I can't give you tobacco because it's not allowed. And he says, no, I need the tobacco because it's a part of my religious practice. And he wanted to offer a smoke symbol to the four winds, to the north, to the south, to the east and west. And that was one of those moments like, okay, God is bigger than what I thought my Baptist God was, because here is about honoring someone's religious tradition and religious practice that is so unfamiliar to what I grew up with or what I'd experienced, in that their God was, his practice was about honoring the wind gods. And that spirit about wherever the wind blows, God is, and where he was, God is also with him. So I thought it was just very, very interesting to say this is how important it is to be open-minded to other religious traditions and religious belief. And I think I hear Margarita and Linda clicking now. Is that you guys? No? My gosh.
No.
This is such a mystery. What? And Linda was talking earlier. We heard we had conversations.
I don't know. I read that.
and that could be the Sunshine Cathedral Creed. Sometimes you were just like, I don't know.
Don't know.
Just doing our best. That's all.
Okay, well, we're
Robert,
gonna
why
work
don't
to
you-
we're gonna work
Yeah,
to
well-
bring this to a close. Maybe they're gonna jump. Well, I think they've jumped out. Maybe they'll jump back in by the time we're ready to do this.
They were raptured.
There was raptured. Oh my God.
If it was going to happen, those would be the two. Those are two
I'm
of the best
telling
people
you,
I know.
they're both gonna come right back to
I
us.
actually believe it this time.
So first, as we begin to wrap up here, I do want to give a shout out to our friend from Scotland who was on our live feed tonight. Thank you for
We're
joining
thankful
us
he's
all
with
the
us.
way.
We're thankful that you
Thankful.
were here with us.
Thank you for being with us all the way from
Can
Scotland.
you hear us?
We can hear you. Yay! There you
We're
go.
so
Okay.
thankful. Okay,
We're thankful that you're back.
you guys say something, and then we're going to wrap up. You guys,
What was your thought?
Because we can hear you now.
You can hear us. Okay.
Mhm.
So I was just going to say that that's one of the things that I love about spiritual direction. Because when I got certified, that was one of the things that I really wanted to make sure that I got the experience of different traditions, and that even when I'm part of a group for international spiritual directors, and when I'm in the guide as someone that can do any faith, so as an interfaith, because I think that's important that we can support anyone that is seeking for a better understanding of the mystery that is God, and definitely that is what Sunshine Cathedral does. So I love that.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Don't
Linda,
go away,
did you
Mark.
have something?
Sorry?
Linda, did you want to add something?
No, that's what Sunshine Cathedral is all about, and that's what makes us a different kind of church.
Different kind, yeah.
All right,
Okay,
we're going to
Robert.
wrap this up. And as everyone gets there, we're going to do this a little differently this week. We don't want to give a final thought, but the final thought this week is I'm actually focus this one on something that you are thankful for. So as you or the panel are getting your thoughts about what you're thankful for, just a quick reminder, Monday through Saturday, join us for noonday prayer. Mondays is, of course, Christians and Cocktails. This coming Wednesday, join us online or in the room for our Thanksgiving Eve worship service at 7 p.m. And then, of course, on Sundays at 9 and 10:30, we invite you to be with us in the room. 10:30 is a live broadcast. And, of course, if you appreciate anything and love it, what we're doing, we invite you to consider a donation through the Sunshine Cathedral website at sunshinecathedral.org. So let's begin our final wrap-up here with what we're thankful for. And I'm going to start with Linda first.
Okay, so I'm thankful for all our spiritual heroes from all faith traditions.
Yes.
All right. Dennis. Mm.
I'm thankful you let me drink this sip of wine before you called my name. Honestly, I am thankful for my family, and that doesn't always mean my relatives, but that means everybody that's on this panel. You are all my family, and I love you. So thankful.
Right. Darrell, do you want to give a thankful tonight?
Oh, I get to do it? Oh, wow.
You get to do it.
No, I'm thankful for so many things. In fact, I try to begin each day with a prayer of gratitude. Today, I got to help inter our 99-year-old member, Emma Hinman, a beautiful woman, 99 years old, and she is now her remains and that of her partner who died in 1996 are in the columbarium at the Sunshine Cathedral, going to be part of us and part of our campus forever. So thankful for that. I got some good news from my doctor today. I've got a great husband. We had a great celebration with limited number of people outside last night because we heard some great news from great people. My gratitude list is extensive.
All right. Tito, how about you?
I'm thankful for everything my husband said, but also thankful that nobody that I love has actually passed away from COVID this year. I've been very lucky for that. Also thankful for the upcoming vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
And extremely thankful for Sunshine Cathedral and for this show because I learned so much, not just from church, but this show teaches me so much about things that I never even thought to ask or to try and learn. So thank you.
All righty, Sam and Tara household. Which one we want to go?
I'll go.
Hey, wait, hey, hold them up. Are we still going to end up with Margarita?
Yes.
Margarita's on the plane.
She's always the anchor, but
She's
this
the
is gonna
anchor.
be okay. All right.
Okay.
You know what? I'm out of this. See, I get excited. I get ahead of myself. You go with your plan. We'll still end up with Margarita.
Anyway, Darrell,
Take two.
I am thankful for science and modern medicine. And this might look like bubbly, but it's actually non-alcoholic. I haven't been drinking for the last 16 weeks because, is that reading?
Love it.
We're having twins. Does this say double trouble or trouble
It
double?
does. Double trouble. I love it.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Twins.
Oh, twins. Yay. Congratulations.
I think this will be the first twins at Sunshine Cathedral.
Yeah. Wow.
That's
Yay.
true.
Children twins. We've had some adults, but these will be our
We'll
first
name
children
one
twins.
Sunshine and we'll name the other Cathedral.
Nice.
Aw. Yeah, that'd be good nicknames.
And we can just call them Sunny and Cat. Why not?
Okay, Margarita, land is
That's
playing
great
for us.
news. That's great news.
All right.
Top that, Margarita.
I was trying to save Margarita. I was trying to say, because I knew that was going to be a tough act to follow.
That was
I
like-
knew.
Pressure, no
Wow.
pressure.
Thankful for you. Your news, of course. But I'm thankful for my family, my friends, but above all, the community of Sunshine Cathedral and all the programming that we have been able to develop through this pandemic, which made us think outside the box. And here we are. So I'm thankful for that. Yay.
All righty then. Well, thank you everyone for being with us tonight. And just so Sam Matara knows, there's lots of congratulations for Double Trouble on the thread on the thread right now. So thanks everyone for being with us tonight. I hope you have a wonderful and safe holiday this week. Wherever you are, you're in our thoughts and our prayers, and hope you have a wonderful time, and just remember to be safe at whatever it is that you're doing. Take care, and we're thankful for you one more time. Thanks a lot, everybody, for being with us.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Double Trouble.
Where's the